All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, of course, part of the Full Press Coverage Network. Once again, it is Alec and Dayton here, recording today's episode with the stuffy nose and all. I am here. Allergies are not fun today in Texas, to say the least. But, Dayton, how the heck are we doing today, my man?
You know what? I'm actually doing pretty great. It's always a good day when we are recording this podcast. And a lot of NFL stuff to talk about. A couple weeks ago, I was pretty, what's the word? I guess bored is the right word with how the NFL offseason was going specifically for the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last couple weeks, we've gotten a lot of stuff coming in. So I think the football gods were listening to me. But no, I'm doing fantastic. Great day. Very sunny and beautiful where I'm at. It is the middle of summer. Probably my favorite season. And I hope all of you that are listening are having a great day as well. Always good to be here with Alec, talking some Saints football. But how are you?
Chilling, really. I really cannot complain too much. It's been a very exciting last few days if you're an NFL fan. Not just with the Saints, but of course you had the Xavien Howard stuff, which we'll get into later on today, but then, of course, the Aaron Rodgers stuff with the Packers, and boy, he gave a bunch of great tidbits when today at training camp with the Packers, and, that kind of the whole situation in itself, so been good. A lot of things are heating up now, it looks like, for the NFL training camp started for a lot of NFL teams. The Saints will kick off here today, if I'm correct, or they started yesterday.
For training camp?
Yes.
Yesterday was the first.
Yeah, yesterday. Veterans reported, so
yes,
love to see it. We're in full swing of things. So let's get you guys caught up on some of the latest news with your New Orleans Saints. Starting off, they have signed former New York Jet, former Falcon corner Brian Poole. To a one-year deal, who primarily plays in the slot corner, of course, with Richard Sherman and, all that he's gone through, and the Saints really haven't been able to add a proven veteran corner, whether in the slot or on the outside, so far this offseason. They finally get their guy, Brian Poole, which I really do enjoy. Also, before our last episode dropped with the wide receiver, after it dropped, the Saints worked out Chris Hogan, of course, former Patriot, was most recently with the New York Jets. Signed him to a one-year deal. He's playing rugby?
Lacrosse,
my bad. Yeah, lacrosse. Out playing lacrosse professionally. Now he's back in the NFL with the Saints. That's going to be an intriguing fit right there. And they already thinned wide receiver room, so... What were just some general thoughts on those first two signings, Dave? The Brian Poole one and then the Chris Hogan one.
Yeah, I guess Hogan is going to try and play lacrosse professionally while still playing in the NFL as well. He's going to work around the schedule, I guess. The team he's with the lacrosse league is very supportive of what he's doing. So we'll see how that works out for him. And again, I mean, a lot of these veterans signing around this time, granted, we of course want them to make the roster, but a lot of times these guys don't end up making the final cut. You sign a guy, you talk about him, and then training camp comes and things change, and you don't need him, especially if those contracts aren't fully guaranteed. We just saw something not so much similar, but we just saw it happen in Green Bay. Blake Bortles signed a one-year non-guaranteed contract with the Packers. Sure enough, Aaron Rodgers comes back for the season. He reported training camp either today or yesterday, and they released him, just a little bit after. So, but I think that both of these guys have not only a good chance to make the roster, I'd be surprised if neither of them did make the roster. Signing two former New York Jets, of course. I'll start with Brian Poole. He was an undrafted free agent out of Florida, goes to the Falcons. He actually was getting a lot of looks from other teams at that time. Ends up going with the Falcons due to his relationship with Dan Quinn, who was the defensive coordinator at Florida during the time Brian Poole was playing there, and also helped recruit him to the school. But he didn't really come into light until, let's see, this was 2018 is when he had his career year, but 2017, he played in 15 games, he had 3 starts, and he had 63 tackles and 4 passes defended. In 2018, played in all 16 games, 9 starts, and he had 3 interceptions and 3 sacks, which were career highs in both categories. And that was primarily playing out of the slot. He's almost kind of a hybrid. He doesn't really remind me of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson kind of type play style. Like, you're going to put him inside, you put him in a box. He can, kind of rush the passer pretty well. He's a disciplined player. He's got decent tackling skills. But Brian Poole, that I remember the most, the play that New Orleans fans should remember the most from Brian Poole, was back in 2018 when Drew Brees put the spin move on, I believe it was Brian Poole and one other Falcon, but spin move by Brees. You rarely ever see Brees, first off, run out of the pocket and actually become a rusher. And then to put a spin move on 2 guys diving in the end zone for a game-tying touchdown, one of the greatest plays of all time, and Brian Poole was a victim of that. So that's what I remember most of him. But I am really excited to have him on his team. Of course, 2018 was really when he came into his own. He's 5'10", 213 pounds, short, stocky. Again, kind of replacing that, I guess, the hole left by DJ Swearinger, who is not returning to the Saints, but played sparingly during last season. And after that 2018 season for Poole, he signed a 1-year, $3.5 million contract with the Jets. And then he re-signed with them in 2020, but he did suffer shoulder and knee injuries and missed the final 8 weeks of the season. So he's coming off a couple major injuries. Seems like he's healthy and good to go, though. I like this signing. I think that cornerback depth is going to be a problem, whether or not Marshawn Lattimore gets suspended, which you figured that would come by now, but I think a lot of stuff is still going on behind the scenes. So, we'll see what happens with Lattimore, but getting this signing is nice. It's not exactly the signing I was expecting. You're thinking more outside corner help, but I think they're really confident in what Patrick Robinson can do on the outside now. They like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, so Brian Poole will kind of be depth there. And, of course, we got P.J. Williams as safety depth now. So you can sign however many corners you want, and then Paulson Adebo is a pure outside guy as well. So you're kind of hitting the right areas. Still not a sign I was expected, but he's only 28 years old. He's still got a lot of football left in him. So definitely rooting for Poole to make the team, even though he is a former Falcon, of course, spent a majority of his career with them. The Chris Hogan signing was really quick, actually. They had him in for a workout. They also had 2 other players in for the workout. Trevor Davis and the other receiver, I am blanking on his name, but both of them have somewhat NFL experience. Trevor Davis, of course, played for the Packers from 2016 to 19. But the Saints ended up going with Chris Hogan. He, of course, is most known for playing for the New England Patriots. He played there for a few seasons, had a couple of really nice playoff games, bounced around, went to the Panthers in 2019, then signed with the Jets last year, and now he is on the New Orleans Saints. But he is a 2-time Super Bowl champ, and if you include Michael Thomas, Chris Hogan has the most experience out of any of these wide receivers on the team now, and it's not even close. 32 years old, been in the league since 2011, undrafted out of Monmouth. Career receptions, 216 for 2,795 yards and 18 receiving touchdowns. He actually originally started at Penn State, ended up, of course, excelling in lacrosse as well. But he had a year of college eligibility remaining in 2008 due to an injury, so ends up going to Monmouth University, and he played offense and defense and impressed enough to end up going to the 49ers. But he bounced around quite a bit until he found his footing. And you guys will know him the best from, I believe it was in the AFC Championship game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he just went off, and also in Super Bowl 52, he had 6 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. They, of course, lost that game to the Eagles. But I know I'm talking a lot, but the end of the story is I like these signings a lot. These guys provide a lot of experience. They provide depth in the most needed areas, cornerback and wide receiver. We've talked about this over and over again. Those are the 2 most important areas right now to get down, and the Saints are at least attempting. Again, they're not guys we were expecting. We talked about Golden Tate. We talked about Kenny Stills. Of course, D.D. Westbrook ends up signing with the Vikings, and the Saints missed out on him. Richard Sherman, of course,
his whole thing
that
happened.
kind of, right. I mean, if that wouldn't have happened and the Saints signed Brian Poole instead of Richard Sherman, that's a whole different conversation. But what's going on with Sherman now is very unique. So it's probably going to be unresolved for a while. But I like both these signings. Again, Chris Hogan providing a lot of experience for the Saints in this wide receiver core that doesn't have a lot. We talked about it. Unproven, unexperienced guys, especially with Michael Thomas being out. At least the first month of the season is what it's sounding like. So, are you as excited as I am for this? I feel like I'm very pumped up for these signings, even though they're minimal. And again, it's not a guarantee these guys are going to make the team. But I think that they at least are good signings. It's not a waste. Neither of them are wasted signings. Mm-hmm. And it's finally good to see the Saints, kind of doing something after the draft.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the Brian Poole signing first in particular, I know, Richard Sherman was the guy who was linked to New Orleans for really since the offseason began when they hired Chris Richard and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But then his situation happened. So when you look at the cornerback free agent market, it dries up after Richard Sherman. The only real notable outside boundary corners that I see on here are the Garen Conley and Drake Kirkpatrick, who visited the Saints. Mm-hmm. But of course, he's 32. And obviously struggled last year in Arizona. So really, outside of that, but Brian Poole is only what?
28.
29. So, I mean, look, he probably was the best corner on the market, but just wasn't necessarily a fit playing outside. But nonetheless, you can never have too many good corners in the NFL, whether they play slot or on the outside. And with that, it gives the Saints more comfort. It makes it more comfortable for the Saints to maybe move Patrick Robinson to the outside. You let Paulson Adebo, learn, just sit back, and you can trust Robinson to play outside corner number 2 opposite Marshawn Lattimore. And you have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Brian Poole man the hybrid, the box / nickel role. And here's the other thing. In today's NFL, most base defenses are always going to be nickel, right? Like most teams come out with 3 wide receivers, so you got to play nickel most of the time in the NFL. So I think it makes sense to have another competent slot corner who can play in a pinch when asked to. So I love the Brian Poole signing. It makes tons of sense. I know it wasn't a need per se as far as an outside boundary corner goes, but with this signing, it allows the Saints to flex Patrick Robinson to the outside, not put as much pressure on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to be kind of like that be everywhere type guy. You have somebody else who can help out with that, being Brian Poole. As with the Chris Hogan signing, not the name I was expecting, nor the name I wanted. It is what it is. He's here now.
Do you think he'll make the roster? Because I know you said on Twitter he might not. He might not even make the roster. Do you think he makes the roster?
Me personally, I hope not, because I don't know what's worse: the fact that Chris Hogan is wide receiver 1 entering the year, or that Chris Hogan doesn't make the roster and doesn't, and he gets beat out by these young cats. Which isn't saying a whole lot, because it's Chris Hogan. I mean, come on.
Sure.
So, sure. I mean, it's a veteran guy. He knows, he's played in tons of offenses in the NFL. He was with New England, Buffalo, then I believe Carolina, and then the Jets year before last. And then he played lacrosse. So, it's a veteran guy,
Yeah. 32.
He's a veteran guy who could show the young guys, how to play the position. It kind of be like that, that eldersman in the locker room, in the wide receiver room. Watching film, maybe you can point out some things. So it's cool, but it's definitely not the receiver I think we all wanted the Saints to sign.
Yeah, and again, it happened very quickly.
It did.
I went over his career regular season stats already, but his career playoff stats are pretty impressive. 2016
Hall of Famer?
We're not talking Julian Edelman here, brother. We're talking about the other white receiver for the Patriots. So he played in 3 games in 2016, 2017, 2018 each. Mm-hmm. And he started a total of 9 total games, 7 total starts. 34 receptions, including 17 in that 2016 run. 332 yards, that's almost a 20-yard average per reception. 2 touchdowns, and 152 yards off 9 catches in 2017, and 2 touchdowns as well. So yeah, 2-time Super Bowl champ, really good in the playoffs, decent regular season stats and experience as well. Had to bounce around the league to kind of make everything work. And speaking of wide receiver one, we asked you on Twitter, we went to Twitter, follow us at SaintsFPC, just search SaintsFPC or FPC Saints. We asked you guys, with Michael Thomas out at least the first few weeks of the season, the Saints have a very interesting decision to make. Who will be wide receiver one on week 1? Traquan Smith, Deontay Harris, Marquez Callaway, Chris Hogan. You guys voted. We still have some time left on the poll, so if you want to go vote and you haven't yet, there's still 10 hours left as we're recording this right now, so should be a few hours by the time we're done recording. But after 32 votes, 50% of you, 16, have voted for Traquan Smith is going to be wide receiver one. That is also my pick. Obviously, he has the most experience inside of the Saints system. He is a guy that they spent a third-round pick on and has accumulated a lot of touchdowns over his career. I think Marquez Callaway, who got the second spot according to your guys' votes, is also has a very legitimate shot to get the starting wide receiver role due to his, he has one of the better route running skills on the team outside of Michael Thomas. He's a solid guy. He can block really well. Deontay Harris also got a lot of votes. Now, if Deontay Harris was a couple inches taller, he could definitely be playing, but he's got to be a slot guy really in this NFL. He's got to use his speed. And his stretching the field ability to really make it work. And then Chris Hogan got a few votes, which I was actually shocked about. Got 9% of the 32 votes, which I think is like 2 or 3 votes. So, very interesting. I think Traquan Smith will get the nod now that everything's kind of playing out. But, yeah, I'm just glad we got some more depth in each position. That's all that matters, I think. The umbrella statement should be Saints got depth at the 2 biggest positional needs. So,
yeah, I mean, Did you vote on that poll?
I voted on my personal account, yes.
Okay, same. Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Traquan Smith. Who'd you vote for? Marquez?
No, I voted for Traquan.
Traquan, okay.
He'll be wide receiver one.
I think so, too.
It should be Taysom Hill, though.
Should be Alvin Kamara. But he's got to be our starting running back. So.
He's going to be starting everything come week 1.
Yeah, that's true.
So... I mean, how would you grade, if you give me a letter grade for these 2 signings, Hogan and Poole, what do you give them?
What? Give them grades?
Yeah. ABC.
Whew, good question. Yeah, I mean, for the Poole signing, I'm going to give it a B-. I only say minus because I was kind of expecting outside corner. It makes more sense the more I think about it to get an inside guy, but I was really expecting an outside guy with Lattimore being just so questionable. But, again, he's 28, experience in the league. I like the signing. I'm going to give the Chris Hogan one a solid B, just because you need to sign a guy. Obviously, he impressed a lot in his workout if you're able to sign him that quickly. He's an athletic guy. He can catch the ball pretty well. He's just not a wow factor. So, I can't really go anywhere above a B, and I can't really go below a B either because I feel like he is the kind of receiver that the Saints are sort of looking for when they're just looking for some filler stuff in the first few weeks. Again, they're going up against teams like, Green Bay, Carolina in the early weeks, teams who have had a weaker secondary. So you want a guy who he's 6'1", 210 pounds. He's got a solid size. For an NFL, receiver, where either you want to put him in the slot or outside. So I think that the signing is a little bit better than it seems on surface, but I can't go above a B, and I can't go above a B- for Poole simply because he's inside slot corner guy. Other options out there, but I'm happy with both because we got depth. I honestly would have been happy with almost anybody they signed, that was under the age of 35. So those are my grades.
Okay, I dig it. I go with the B for Brian Poole, simply because of the market for outside corner really isn't all that there.
Yeah.
And Brian Poole probably was the best all-around corner left. So to nab him for a year, which, hey, I dig it. The Chris Hogan signing, I'm going to give it a C-. Yeah, I think there are other, better receivers out there on the market that the Saints certainly could have worked out. And if he impressed them that much on the first tryout, then hey, slap me silly, and I'll own him to that. But until then, I'm still not impressed with the addition of Hogan does not make this wide receiver core any much better than without him.
Yes, I think so. And again, the experience I think is the most important part
Yeah,
for him.
that is nice to have, but yeah, this wide receiver core, my opinion on this core still has not changed with Chris Hogan. But hey, I mean,
Right.
it is what it is. But let's get into a little more intriguing conversation here with your Saints. And I actually got a tweet from Rappaport to share with you real quick.
Yes.
Ian Rappaport tweeted out about 20 minutes ago. Less than a day after the Xavien Howard requested a trade, 2 playoff teams called the Dolphins inquiring about a trade for Howard. Sources said other teams have too. Howard, by the way, practiced fully yesterday and handled himself like a professional. So, 2 teams from last year's playoffs have already reached out to Miami. And I know, for the Saints, it makes tons of sense to get a proven outside corner opposite Marshawn Lattimore, especially when you consider Lattimore could face suspension this year as well. He obviously signed the big deal. He wants a new reworked contract with whichever team trades for him. And we know the Saints, if there's one thing they can do, making limits to Kyle Harley, they can maneuver the cap to get the player what he wants and what he deserves. So I have no question in that. The question is, A, is it even, possible to acquire Howard? B, what would you want to give up for him? And C, is it a fit?
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know what Alec is talking about specifically, Xavien Howard, of course, star cornerback for the Dolphins.
Led the league in picks last year.
Led the league in picks in it was 2020 and I think it was 2018 as well. He led the league in picks, or it was 2017, one of those years. But he came out yesterday and officially requested a trade from the Dolphins. Now, he came out and he was very honest and open after, a lot of rumors have been flying around. But essentially the rumors were true in the sense that he was looking for a reworked contract for the Dolphins. He said that I've given my heart and soul to the Miami Dolphins franchise since they drafted me in 2016 and want to make it clear that I love my teammates. But he also goes on to say that in 2018 he signed an extension that, quote, I'll admit I didn't completely understand or feel comfortable with. And then he goes on to say that the Dolphins have been very against any sort of reworking negotiations that have been brought to the table by Howard's agent. And it just seems like the Dolphins are doing what any team really would do, even with a star cornerback like Xavien Howard, is that, you signed this contract, and it was actually 2019 when he signed this contract. And he says in a statement that he's played 2 seasons on that contract. Technically, he's only played 1 season on that contract, which was in 2020. 2019, he was still on his rookie deal. It was the last year of that rookie deal before the extension kicked in. Technically, he's only played 1 year on that deal. Currently, he was sitting out training camp, and he took a $93,000 fine. Seems like he's showing up now so that he doesn't lose out on any more money. He obviously wants to keep good mends with the Dolphins and whatnot, but he is requesting a trade out of there because, to him, he signed a contract that he wasn't fully aware of the obligations, which include the guaranteed money, which is what he wants more of, is what he's saying. And the Dolphins are saying, hey, you signed it 2 years ago, and you've only played 1 year on it. We're not going to give you any more money. How about? I'm sure they're saying, how about next offseason we can talk about this, but at least play 2 years under this current deal before we try to get anything going. So it's very, very interesting. And then, of course, that kicked off all the rumors. The Saints obviously need a cornerback. We talked about the Brian Poole signing, but inside corner, Xavien Howard is an outside ball-hawking cornerback shutdown guy. Man-to-man coverage, which the Saints love to run. Of course, was drafted in the second round out of Baylor back in 2016. Very talented player. And I'll pass this off to you. The contract and his injuries are the 2 biggest concerns, or else I'd say Saints go for it. Like, if you got to trade a first-round pick, trade a first-round pick for Xavien Howard. But his contract may not work with our salary cap, and his injury concern is a pretty big and legitimate concern.
It is, especially when you consider Miami gave him that contract, in the midst. He played healthy last year, but before that, he was a corner who had missed some games early on in his NFL career. And you look at his contract, the base salary of 2021 is going to be $12.75 million, and then $12,375, $11,400, 11,650 in 2024. Then he's an unrestricted free agent after 2024. The cap hits for this year would be 13.5, then 14,375, 13.4, 12,250. So I mean, and the injuries, I'll run them through you real quick. Right here. So in 2019, he only played in 5 games. Then his season was cut early. 2018, he played in 12 games. And 2016, his rookie year, played in 7. Started 6 of those games and then went down early in the season. So there is concern for the injuries, but his last year was a really good year for him. You know, he had 10 picks, which led the league, 51 tackles, played in 96% of the defensive snaps, started 15 games that year for the Dolphins. And the problem with this is that it also all started when the Dolphins paid Byron Jones.
Yes, a big contract.
A big contract. And here's the thing with NFL contracts, right? You know, you could sign a deal 1 year, but I guarantee you the next year somebody will leapfrog you, you know? As far as contract-wise, guaranteed money, things like that. Somebody will leapfrog you.
Yeah, every year the market for almost every position gets reset by a new fat contract.
And I mean, to Xavien Howard's point, I guess if it's his teammate, let alone the guy opposite of him, I could see why he would be a little bit upset about that. I could see it. But ultimately, it's a team game. You put that aside because the Dolphins went on and got the best corner on the market that year to pair with you to be locked down, being Byron Jones.
Right.
So,
and the Dolphins are in a pretty decent position to win a lot of games
that's
in the regular season and go somewhat far in the playoffs. I mean, it all depends on how Tua plays, of course, at the quarterback position. But they have a lot of pieces. They got the right coaching staff where they're going to win a lot of games. So, you know, if you're Xavien Howard and you want to win, and, you know, of course, 2 playoff teams have already contacted him, you're already on a winning team. You're getting a good amount of money. It's like, you know, how much leverage do you have? Well, clearly, he's got somewhat leverage if teams are going out and looking for him. But I don't know.
And again, you know, last year Miami was a team that, you know, spurted a little too quickly last year. I think they were still a year away from being a serious playoff team. And you saw glimpses of it last year. That was a really competent team, and especially defensively with Xavien Howard, Byron Jones opposite. So for him to want to leave that, to go to an unknown territory as far as, you know, you don't know what you're going to get yourself into, I mean, that's big. So, I mean, the only question is, what do you offer the Dolphins, right? That would be the question. What do you offer if you're the Saints? And whatever we offer is going to be better than what everybody else can offer.
I mean, Saints are never afraid to give up draft picks. You know that. I mean, they traded a 3rd overall for Teddy Bridgewater to be their backup. I wouldn't be surprised if they were. But again, it's the money situation. His cap hit for 2021 is how much? 11 what?
Xavien's?
Yes.
That's going to be, for 21, his cap hit is 13.5.
Oh, so it's 13.5. So it's one of the higher cap hits. So that's a lot of money. I think the Saints only have, after this Poole and Hogan signing, they probably only have $2.5 million left in cap. They would need to shed a contract. I don't see it happening.
Neither do I.
mean, who are you going to shed? Who are you going to trade away? Guys that you haven't yet cut, you kept on the team for a reason, right? To make the salary cap work in the first place.
And the 2 names I'm seeing everybody throw out there on Twitter, Marcus Davenport, Patrick Robinson, which make no sense whatsoever, considering Miami just spent a first-round pick on Jalen Phillips out of Miami this year.
Yep. They have a solid defensive line.
And then
very solid
last year, at the end of the first, they drafted the corner out of Oregon. He has a really long name.
Oh, yeah. I can never pronounce his name correctly, but...
you know what I'm talking about. They spent a first-round pick on a premium corner the year before at the end of the first round. So to give up your Pro Bowl caliber, All-Pro type corner for a defensive end who has shown very little, if not nothing, in return for being the 14th pick in his draft, and a corner who was over 30, when you're already stacked at corner, makes no sense.
I agree.
So
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think the Saints have the arsenal to pull it. Like they have the arsenal to pull it off in terms of what they can give up, what they can take and absorb in terms of contract. It's not gonna happen. And it doesn't really happen in the NFL often anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But teams aren't going to shell out money to help another team. And in this situation specifically, teams aren't going to shell out any money to help a team take it on. Like it's not gonna you're not gonna have the Dolphins pay any part of Xavien Howard's contract to make anything work. Like they want him on the team. So if they're going to trade him, they're going to get a big return back, and they're going to give up that entire contract. So
yeah, I mean, I would if I was Miami. I mean, if you don't want to be there, I will ship you out and get the best deal possible. I don't care if it's a contender or a top 10 team in the draft. I do not care. I'm getting whatever I can for you. Yeah. So. I realistically, I don't see New Orleans really getting into this race. And if they do get in this race, they will be out of it very early. Simply because, we don't have the assets to trade. The people are going to say, and let me ask you this one hypothetically. If New Orleans were to trade for, if they somehow pulled it off, right? Do you pay Marshawn Lattimore?
No, at that point, no.
You're content next year rolling out with Xavien, Adebo, and Chauncey Gardner in the slot? Hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically, yes, and the Saints could also go out and draft, whoever in the draft, the cornerback. But, Xavien Howard is 28 years old. So, he's the same age as Brian Poole that we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. He just turned 28, though. So he's going to be 28 this entire season, 29 next year, 30 the following year. So I think these are going to be his last 3 prime playing years if the NFL cycle is true with Xavien Howard. And, with Marshawn Lattimore, of course, he's going to cost a lot of money, and we've seen his inconsistent play now. He's not really injury-prone, which I love about him, and he's only 25 years old. Mm-hmm. But if you trade for Xavien Howard, you already have that contract on the books. Number one, there's no way you're going to be able to make Marshawn Lattimore, and pay him what he's going to want to be paid anywhere close.
You got to pay Marcus Williams, too.
You got to pay Marcus Williams, too, and you got to and you're going to have to pay... who do we draft in 2018? You might have to pay Davenport, with an extent. There's other guys that you're drafting that you're going to have to pay. There's other free agents in areas that you're going to have to improve and all this stuff. So if you're trading for Xavien Howard, you truly believe in him. And if that's the case, you believe in him more than Lattimore, then, you got to let Lattimore go. But I think what's actually going to happen is Lattimore will get extended. Xavien Howard will not be traded to the Saints, but... it'd be
good
fun,
answer.
Hypothetically.
It always is fun to hypothetically just throw that out, right? Just see what happens.
Yes.
So I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's very little, if not none. But hey, it's always fun to speculate. Always fun to talk about. But yeah, so let me ask you this before we log off here for the day. Give me one bold training camp prediction as we enter training camp.
Bold training camp prediction.
Give me bold.
I'm going to go and say that there's actually a couple that I've been kind of thinking of. Paulson Adebo has just been really sticking out to me. I think Paulson Adebo will go on and
For what reason? For what reason is he sticking out to you?
Obviously... You know what he's been posting on Instagram and all that. We all know that. I won't get into that. But ever since we drafted him, I'm just like, I love this dude's length and physicality as a man-to-man corner. I think whether Lattimore is suspended or not to begin the season, I think Paulson Adebo will be the starting outside cornerback opposite of Marshawn Lattimore because he will perform so well in camp. And again, he also has a lot of the preseason to go. And then I guess my other bold prediction is... Marcus Davenport. This is more of a preseason one because, I think a lot of these training camp battles when we're hearing Taysom Hill is going to take over Jameis, those are a lot of rumors. That's not going to be a bold prediction, I'll say. But, I think a lot of these positions, especially on the offensive line, are locked up in the very questionable positions I don't really have a bold take on. But I think Marcus Davenport will rack up 6 total sacks in the 3 preseason games. 6 total sacks in 3 preseason games. I think he's going to get after it. He's going to be going up against a few backups here and there. I think that will help boost his confidence. He'll get a lot more snaps with Trey Hendrickson gone. So, Marcus Davenport, 6 total sacks in 3 preseason games this year. That's my bold prediction.
Okay, I dig it.
What about you? You got anything bold?
I got one in mind. I'll make the prediction before week 1. The Saints will trade for a high-end number 2 or a low number 1 wide receiver to add to this group. I think the prime example, if you look at it, being here in Dallas, I remember in 2018, I believe, the Cowboys thought they could run out with a receiver by committee group after letting go Des Bryant. Did not work out. It ended very horribly. Then they traded for Amari Cooper, I think, 5-6 weeks into the season, and it worked out tremendously for that team. I think the Saints will have that same problem. I think they will quickly realize throughout the preseason that this cannot work for the new quarterback, whoever it is, and they will try and make a move and trade for someone to pair up with Michael Thomas, or to take over until Mike Thomas gets back as that number 1 alpha type receiver.
I like that. So do you think that will happen during training camp, or do you think that will happen in the first few weeks of the season?
I'll say it happens. Same thing as you like before week 1, throughout training camp, in the preseason. I think they'll realize that maybe you got to add somebody here who could be a dominant 1.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with that because as you know, I'm very outspoken about this wide receiver group.
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. Again, check out our Twitter. You can listen to the clip of just Alec if you haven't already listened to the episode. Talk about our wide receiver core.
It's trash.
And also shout out new Superdome sponsor. I mean, we've known who the sponsor is going to be. The unveiling, or I guess it was more today. The Saints showed the actual inside of the stadium and what's going to be featured, and just the Caesars logo. The outside I don't think is fully complete, but the render for it is awesome. It's Caesars Entertainment, called the Caesars Superdome.
I actually really dig the name. Awesome. The name is really cool.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
I dig it.
I like it too. I mean, nothing's going to top, the Louisiana Superdome, but if you're going to have a sponsor, this is the sponsor to have, I think. So yeah. I like it a lot. And
if I'm right, it's the first major casino type thing to be involved in naming rights for any sport. So it's cool. Yeah.
You'll see a lot more of that, though, with all the sports betting going on. So,
especially Louisiana, because it's legal down there.
Yes.
Yeah. But I like the name. I dig the font too. The font's pretty cool.
Of course.
It looks cool.
It's the classic Caesars. Yeah, I love it too.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Caesars Superdome. No, we just can't rename the Smoothie King Center the Brutus Center.
Oh, they gotta rename it Little Caesars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Little Caesars Pizza.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Little Caesars Arena right next to the Caesars Superdome.
Hey, I mean it makes perfect sense. And then you just rename, what is it, Champion Square? You rename that. What are the breadsticks called? Little Caesars? The Crazy Bread? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, they got Crazy Bread.
Yeah, you rename that the Crazy Bread Square.
I like that.
And there, it all connects together.
Pepperoni and cheese stuffed square.
That's very true, but I think that's a wrap up today's episode. Dane, any last words before we sign off?
Just follow us on Twitter.
Always.
And subscribe. And give us a 5-star rating if you guys enjoy this podcast.
Yes. And any criticism is welcome, good or bad.
Yes.
We like to improve our content and quality for you guys. Of course, you, the listeners, make this possible. So shout out to all you guys for listening. Who dat? And the next episode, we'll continue to dive into training camp miniseries. We'll take a look at the offensive line and then look at the defense. So hyped about it. Until then, this is the Full Press Saints podcast signing off. See you guys soon.